Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Redshirt Down, and this is the series Trash to Treasure, where I show you just how easy and cheap it can be to play the best format in all of Magic. And for one of you, that's especially true. I'm planning on giving this cube away for free to one of my viewers living in North America. In the future, I'd like to open it up worldwide, but right now the cost is still just too prohibitive. All you have to do is subscribe and leave a comment on any of the videos in the series. I'll be pulling a random viewer 1 week after the series wraps. Today, we'll be looking at interesting red spells and strategically cutting the list down to something more manageable. Before we begin, I'd like to thank everyone who's taking this journey with me. Goblin Arsonist is just a 1/1, but in an environment with aristocrats, the death trigger could be valuable. Let's start that off in the maybe pile. Roram Lancer is a pretty decent, evasive 1-drop. As long as the ring stays in, this'll have a spot. Orcish Conscripts. This needs too much to be useful. It's an easy cut. Sneaking Guide. This is an extra copy of Pathmaker Initiate, a card we'll get to at 2 mana. The difference being, it doesn't require mana to activate, and this does. For that reason, it's an easy cut. Occam Hellhound. Attacks for 2 on turn 2. Get in the keep pile. Torch Courier can give you sneaky haste. Could be strong. Let's throw it in the maybe pile for now. Fanatical Firebrand. Torch Courier's body with the Arsonist's ability. I think that I like the ability to target the ping over the Arsonist's guaranteed damage, so we'll add that into the cut pile. We'll keep these other two for now. Goblin Blast Runner is an easy cut. We don't have enough built-in synergy to make this consistent. Gorilla Shaman. Foil. Pauper All-Star. We're not going to have the cheap artifacts that he so often feasts on. But still, it's a body with relevant ability, so it's a maybe. Monastery Swiftspear, an auto-include. If your cube doesn't have one, go buy one. Voldaren Epicure is a strong glue card for us. It's got an aggressive ETB, makes an artifact token, and that token enables Madness. Another for sure include. Embereth Veteran, our first red Savannah Lion. It's got 2 relevant creature types and an ability that makes it useful in the mid-game. Another must for the cube. Weaselback Redcap, another 1/1, but this one comes with fire breathing. I think I'd prefer any of the cards in the maybe pile over this, so it won't be added. I'll put the maybe pile into the keep pile, and we'll move to the 2s. I'm going to start with all of the cards with prowess, or fake prowess. We'll be looking for 2 or 3 of these effects, so the worst ones are an easy cut. Kiln Fiend, Fire Urchin, and Festival Crasher are all cards that play in a similar space. And Dwarven Forge Chanter, Sanguinary Mage, and Mage Ring Bully are my prowess keyworded creatures. Starting with them, we've got a 1/3 with protection, a 1/3 strictly worse. What are we doing? And a 2/2 that must attack. We'll start with that and move on to the top row. These two are very similar, but the Kiln Fiend gets bigger for each spell. So we'll cut the Crasher. I think, of the 4 left, the Mage Ring Bully is the weakest. So we'll cut that too. Looking over what's left, I think that while the Fire Urchin has Trample, it doesn't have the explosive potential of Kiln Fiend. So we'll cut that and keep these 2 for our cube. Next up, Storm Entity. Cute reference, but this isn't the cube for Storm. I'm going to have to cut it. Thermo Alchemist, a defender that pings with every spell cast. That gets it into the maybe pile. Flame Channeler, a pretty decent body whenever your burn spells connect. It gives you card advantage in the mid to late game. Erebor Flamesmith. While it's no young pyromancer, it fills a similar role. Let's throw this in for sure, and look at our maybes. For now, of the two, I'm gonna keep Thermo Alchemist. If we take the walls out, I may revisit, but I am also happy keeping this card in without the wall synergy. Now it's time to take a look at the aggressive 2-drops, the ones you'll be punching your opponent with. These are here because they support aggro. They hit fast and they hit hard. Ashmouth Hound, Mogwar Marshal, Rimrock Knight, Underworld Rage Hound, Battle-Scarred Goblin, Voltaic Visionary, and Blood-Crazed Neonate. Both the Ashmouth Hound and the Battle-Scarred Goblin are fulfilling the same role. They both will trade up, but this has better stats, so you're in. The Rage Hound gives you value from the grave, but if you're using this ability, you're in trouble. Maybe pile it is. Mogwar Marshal gives you 3 bodies for 2 mana. Don't pay the echo cost, but this is a maybe too. Rimrock Knight comes with its own combat trick. You're in. Our last of these is another competition. Would you rather have Blood-Crazed Neonate, a creature that gets stronger as the game progresses, or the Visionary, which will give you value from the top deck, and has a better body to boot? Of the two, I'm looking for red to deal damage, so Neonate is the choice. Next for our 2-drops, utility creatures. Embereth Shieldbreaker, Pathmaker Initiate, Viashino Lashclaw, Yavimaya Steelcrusher, and Sprouting Goblin. Let's analyze what they do. The Shieldbreaker is just a piker, but it has a useful sideboard spell attached. If you've got a cube already and aren't running this, take another look into this guy. The Lashclaw has a very interesting variation on the Surprise Haste. Not only will this give your team some damage potential, but when played with the Madness card, you can do some disgusting things. How it works is you discard the Madness card with this ability on the stack. Then you retain priority and can play the card from exile as an option. It comes into play, and then the first ability resolves, giving it haste. I think one of the secret achievements will be to cast the Reckless Worm and attack for 4 on turn 3. Pathmaker Initiate is the better version of Sneaking Guide. Slightly more expensive to cast, this will let one of the little guys get in for free every turn. Yavimaya Steelcrusher. Foily. I like having a body that destroys artifacts, but I think we'll only need the one. Shieldbreaker feels cleaner to me, so this is out. Sprouting Goblin will sometimes fix you, but will always give you value from the extra land drops. It's a maybe for now, we'll think more on it later. Lastly, in the 2-drops, a few cards we'll evaluate by themselves. Incendiary Oracle has an okay body. It's got a fire-breathing ability, but we're already pretty heavy in the 2 slot, so this is out. Scrapwork Mutt is an excellent glue card. It's a piker that's an artifact and enables madness. Sometimes you just need to have a card half the table is fighting over. Fearless Liberator, a worse Usher of the Fallen. The ability's too slow, you'd rather be casting more spells. Flametongue Yearling, the Kavu's little brother. I really like the flexibility on this card. Get into the list. Aki Emberkeeper. We should end up in a spot where this ability is often active, but at this point I'm not looking for more 2s. Bloodpetal Celebrant. Great that this piker comes with first strike. A solid maybe. Goblin Fireleaper. Another fire breather. We have a lot of red 2s already, so this won't make the cut. And Picnic Ruiner. A decent body by itself, it comes with a useful spell attached, and can even double strike. This is another card worth thinking about. Finally, we've finished the 2s. There sure were a lot of them. Luckily, there's fewer 3s, so this should be a lot more manageable. Irreverent Revelers. A bad creature I only pulled for the artifact destruction. We've seen much better options, so we'll put this one back. Cinder Pyromancer and Brimstone Trebuchet. 2 cards that exist solely to whittle down your opponent's life total. I like the Pyromancer's ability better personally, but the Trebuchet has both the better body and better typing. We'll keep the trebuchet for now, but may return to this decision if and when the walls fall. Splatter Thug is an okay body, but I think we've got better. Hero of the Games is a great look into what could have been. We don't have enough heroic support, so it's out. Tom, the Prodigal Pyromancer. Stats are bad, but the ability is excellent. Welcome to the team. Haradrim Spearmaster. Its base stats are underwhelming, but it gives you a slight buff every combat. Solid maybe contention. Gutter Snipe, the backbone of an Izzet Spellslinger deck. Smelt Ward Minotaur has the same stat problem as the Spearmaster, with a worse ability. Easy cut. Grinning Ingus could be a cool combo piece if we had mana generators or cost reduction. As stands, we don't need this card, so we'll cut it. Arcbound Tracker is an artifact creature that comes with counters. It also gets bigger naturally in a Spellslinger deck. For that reason, it's a solid maybe. Skophos Reaver attacks as a 3-mana 4/3, plus it has Madness. For that deck to come together, we need both enablers and payoffs, and this is not a bad one. Alluring Suitor is already drawing me in with a Vampire Frame. If your deck's aggressive enough, you'll flip it the turn it comes down, giving you 2 mana back right away. Best case, you've just played a 1-mana 3/3 if you're using that extra mana. Imodane's Recruiter, a menace of Standard a few months back. The Bushwhacker ability is good on this body, plus can be a token maker if you're also in white. At 4 mana, we're only going to want a few of these creatures. Time to get picky! Mount Velas Manticore is an undersized body, but gives us a free discard trigger every turn. We'll think about it. Blade Tribe Berserkers is the first of our hill giants, and it's on the weaker end. The Metalcraft is only when it enters the battlefield, so most of the time this is just underpowered. Easy cut. Lord of Shatterskull Pass, our sneaky rare with level up. Another hill giant, but if this sticks around, the next turn you're likely swinging in for 6. Going to make this round of cuts for sure. Gimli, counter of kills. Finally, some decent stats. And that ability isn't bad either. Ardent Elementalist. Cool that it buys back some spells, but it's just too small for 4 mana. Twin Shot Sniper. Baby FTK with relevant card types. Plus, it'll send 2 uncounterable damage anywhere. Get into the cube. Weary Prisoner, the only daybound nightbound card. Easy cut. Arcbound Whelp, similar to the tracker I like, but it also only comes with 2, despite costing 1 more mana. Oleg High Crusher, best vanilla body we've had yet. It comes with a negligible drawback, as you shouldn't be blocking with this guy anyway. Goblin Traprunner and Hoarding Ogre are fighting for the same spot. They both give a variable benefit based on the roll of a die or flick of some coins. I think, despite the cube already running some die rolling, that Traprunner is just the better card, so we cut the Ogre. Birkenbrand, Lord of Westfold, has a pretty nice Oriflamme ability, but red isn't usually the color to find humans. And the Scrap Melter. Again, we don't need artifact hate this badly. It's cut. Let's take another look at these maybes. There are a lot, so I'll keep just 2. I like the Lord. You won't often find this card in other environments, so it'll give you a unique experience. And I think for now, my other choice would be the Manticore. Slightly under stats, but that discard could be useful, not only for madness, but to pick off your opponent's tokens before combat. These other cards aren't necessarily gone, however, because most cubes are works in progress. Now to the 5+ mana cards. I'll only pull out a couple that are interesting, the rest are just tossed. Arcbound Slasher. No. Reckless Worm, our Christmas Land Madness payoff. Solid, maybe. Cyclops Electromancer. Expensive and needs too much setup to be good. No. Eomer of the Riddlemark, a legendary human knight that makes dudes. Sure, maybe. Heroes of the Revel, not the right cube for heroic, so no. Gathan Raiders, Gives a one-time discard, but still too low power, so no. Shivan Phoenix, a 6-mana 3/4. No. Bloodshot Cyclops. This can fling creatures, but it costs too much to play. Firemar Kavu has the same problem. 6 is just too expensive. Oilifant. The whole Lord of the Rings cycle is straight gas. It fixes you early, or can be played in the very late game. Hearth Elemental. Not really a 6-drop thanks to its cost reduction. Plus, it comes stapled to a Dangerous Wager. Played correctly, this card should read draw 2 cards. Very good card to keep. Chaos Imps. Very foily. Very expensive. Charmbreaker Devils. Again, a nice effect, but the cost is just too high. Blitz Automaton. A technical 7-drop, but it actually costs 3. But the 3-mana 3/2 haste is still underpowered from the ones we've already saved. Gargadon. Again, not really a 7-drop. But I'm not a huge turn of 4-turn layaway either. You may be too far off tempo by then. And lastly, Amethyst Dragon. This is another bad body tacked onto a terrible removal spell. It's not worth including if you don't want to cast either side. That'll finish up the creatures. I feel we made some very good cuts and got the list more focused. Before we continue, I have a question for you. Do you like this format? Is it easy to follow what's happening without the card overlays? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, let's take a quick look at the non-creature permanents. Crystal Slipper is going to make the final 360. Repeatedly being able to give your creatures haste for 1 mana can't be understated. Experimental Synthesizer is a very strong card, but it needs to be built around. We don't have those pieces, so no. And Javelin of Lightning is a good combat trick that sticks around. It'll make it past this rounds of cuts. Now onto the enchantments. Fiery Inscription is a hard to remove synergy piece for the Spellslinger deck. It'll stick around for as long as we're playing with the ring. Omen of the Forge? Too pricey. It's a worse Magma Spray. Raid Bombardment. You'd think it'd be good for aggro decks, but at 3 mana, they'd usually be wanting to apply more pressure, so it's a maybe, but not likely. Then Bitter Reunion is a tormenting voice with upside. It doesn't trigger most Spellslingers, however, it's another way to surprise attack with a madness creature. Good, solid include. On to the instants. We just need some damage spells, combat tricks, and maybe some card selection. Starting with a creature, but not really. Simian Spirit Guide is a ritual out of your hand. You go down card advantage for your tempo advantage. Played in environments where mana is at a premium, in our value environment it's not going to make the cut. Time to look at all the shocks. Starting with Shock, Play with Fire, Shivan Fire, Magma Spray, Flame Blessed Bolt, and Unholy Heat. I think, for now, I'd like to keep 3. Shock is out, because it only does the 2 damage. All of the rest are mostly better. Play with Fire's in, despite the frame. It gives you value even if you're just doming your opponent. Magma Spray and Flame Blessed Bolt both do mostly the same effect, but I'll give Flame Blessed Bolt the nod. Looking at the last 2, I like both, but Unholy Heat is just stronger. It'll hit Planeswalkers, and Delirium is way easier to hit than getting to 4 extra mana. Cool. Next up, the card that dunks on every card we just looked at. Lightning Bolt, the classic and the best red burn spell. Need I say more? On to combat tricks. Titan Strength and Samet Sprint are basically the same card, but Titan Strength's better, so that's cut. Monstrous Rage and Titan Strength do fairly similar things, except Monstrous Rage gives you a game piece that sticks around, so we'll cut Titan Strength. And lastly, Kindled Fury is a cute red removal spell in disguise. However, the benefit is too small. Maybe if Heroic had a larger presence, I'd make room. Next, Expedite. I think I've got enough haste enablers, so this is cut. Dual Shot. 2 for 1 for little creatures. Lightning Axe kills just about anything in this cube, plus it gives you another discard outlet. And Lava Dart gives you 1 damage now and 1 later. I think it's in a similar enough role that we can compare it to Dual Shot. This may kill 2 creatures for 1 mana, but may only kill 1. Lava Dart kills that same creature, but it can also burn face, and that'll push it over the edge. Starting with the 2 mana spells, we'll take a look at the bad shocks. These will need to bring fantastic bonuses to make the cut. Magma Jet and Sudden Shock. Both don't have enough upside, so they're cut. On to the Lightning Strikes, the 3 damage dealers. These can add a little bit less, since the damage output is 150% higher. Jaya's Greeting does give you a scry, but I think I'd rather have any of these 3 instead. So, it's cut. Lightning Strike, the classic fixed lightning bolt. Even at 2 mana, the ability's great. Scorching Dragonfire gives you an exile, and Abrade attacks artifacts. We'll keep both. 2 more spells that destroy artifacts at 2 mana. I think with Abrade and the Embereth Shieldbreaker, red is all set for artifact destruction, so these are cut as well. Fling and Improvised Club are both asking you to sacrifice something to deal damage. The club always hits for 4, but Fling needs creatures specifically. I think I like Fling more. Next, the Lone Combat Trick, Run Amok. 2 little benefit for 2 mana, it's cut. Fists of Flame. This isn't the kind of cube that'll have red drawing a ton of cards. Also cut. Thrill of Possibility and Faithless Salvaging. 2 card selection spells that'll enable madness. I like that Faithless Salvaging doesn't even need to discard the card. If your hand is empty, it's just card advantage. Plus, the rebound will trigger after your untap step, letting you cast anything potentially with madness. And then Cast into the Fire, the canon way to remove the 1 ring. Adds on another Dual Shot, so that'll make the cut. Fiery Temper. Paying 3 mana for this is bad. 1 mana is great. Demon Bolt. 3 mana for 4 damage that can't even target face. No. Mind Collapse. A free way to kill something. This is a solid maybe. Unexpected Windfall. This may not be the right environment, but it's a ritual of sorts with card draw stapled on. Another maybe. And Volcanic Geyser, an expensive blaze at instant speed. Lastly, the Sorceries. Claim the Firstborn. It'll hit most of the creatures in the cube, but we really don't have a density of sacrifice outlets that you'd like. It's a good candidate for the cube. Faithless Looting, one of the best cards in all of Cube. Scales with the power level of the environment too, so I'll add it in. And whatever final iteration you take this in is a sure thing for your list. Ranger's Firebrand is a slow shock with the added value of the ring mechanic. Solid maybe card, but the more effects I'm seeing the mechanic on, the more I'm thinking about including it. Shenanigans, another artifact removal spell at 2. I don't think they're that much of a problem in this environment, so we'll pass. Reckless Impulse, Cathartic Reunion, Tormenting Voice. All of these cards are playing in the same space, but Reckless Impulse will always give you 2 cards you can cast, where the others will need you to have a card in hand. We'll keep Impulse and cut the rest. Breaking of the Fellowship, making your opponent slap themselves. It's priced well, but adding the ring mechanic slides it into a maybe. Rally at the Hornburg is a better dragon fodder. I don't know that we need this effect, but we certainly don't need 2. Flame Rift. I'd like to support burn at least a little bit. And this being 4 damage, which is 1 more than 3, should surprise the person on the receiving end. Shreds of Sanity. Not a bad cost for a spell that buys back 2 more. Maybe it'll go the distance. Rift Bolt. Another 3 mana value, 1 mana spent card for burn. Solid role player. Seize the Spoils. A cheaper, yet slower, windfall. We'll have to make a judgment on this later. Whittling Outburst. It's great that it gives 3 bodies, but it being 3 mana, it's just too weak. Crush the Weak. An automatic yes to help keep aggro honest. We didn't open any in white or blue, so this'll have to do. Surreal Memoir. Another way to buy back a couple of spells. But this is random, only hits instants, and costs 4 mana. Finishing up with Blaze and Fireball. Fireball is just better, and we're only going to want one of these effects. So that's going to finish up our red spells. We cut a ton, but we still have a lot more to pick with. After throwing this list into Cube Cobra, I see that we're down to 77 cards, which is an excellent start. Back to today's question. What do you think of this new format? I think it's more engaging, but would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.